All right, ready to dive into an action-packed adventure? We're about to unpack the wild, heart-pounding story of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, dropped in 2009 by Infinity Ward and Activision. This epic unfolds in 2016, 5 years after the chaos of Call of Duty 4. Lace up your boots, because we're going stage by stage with Task Force 141 and the U.S. Army Rangers, tearing through war, betrayal, and pure adrenaline. The story kicks off on a scorching day in the Afghan desert. Private Joseph Allen, a fresh-faced U.S. Army Ranger, steps into a dusty training base buzzing with activity. Tents flap in the hot wind, metal barrels of fuel glint in the sun, and a beat-up Jeep sits off to the side. Sergeant Foley, a tough-as-nails drill sergeant, barks, "Move it, Allen. Hit the center of that target." Allen grabs an M4A1 and fires at red and white wooden targets, sweat dripping down his brow as distant explosions echo and gunfire rattles the air. A rusty sign by the range reads, "Days without incident." Pretty hilarious. Afghan soldiers train nearby. A radio crackles with war updates, and Allen heads to a pit where moving targets test his speed and aim. A piece of intel stashed on a metal shelf near the watchtower, tucked beside an old lantern. Then General Shepard rolls up, cigar in hand, eyes sharp, and says, "You're ready for Task Force 141, kid." It's like a door swings wide open to a world of danger.
Get up, Private Allen! Rangers lead the way! Move!
Now Allen's with the Rangers, rolling in a Humvee with Sergeant Foley and Corporal Dunn toward a dusty town overrun by OPFOR troops. The air's thick with grit, mud brick walls are cracked and bullet-scarred, and burnout cars litter the streets. Locals flee in panic as Foley yells, "Allen, get ready, save that bridge." Enemies pop off shots from shattered windows and flimsy rooftops. Allen snags a grenade launcher and blasts an RPG nest in a rickety building with a creaky wooden door. Smoke and fire erupt, and enemy shouts fill the chaos. The team pushes into an abandoned school, classrooms coated in dust, chalkboards broken, kids' drawings fading on the walls. A clock stuck at 3, papers are scattered on the floor, and foes swarm from the halls. An intel piece hides in a second-floor classroom, next to a board scribbled with math equations. They clear it out, and another intel's by a wrecked yellow taxi in a metal crate. Shepard arrives, his stare intense, and says, "Kid, a bigger mission's waiting." The story's heating up fast.
Allen, you'll be taking orders from me from now on. I'll brief you on the chopper. Let's go. Battalion is Oscar Mike!
Enter Sergeant Gary Roach Sanderson and Captain John Soap McTavish, hitting the scene. In the bone-chilling Tian Shan Mountains, their gig is snagging an ACS module from a crashed U.S. satellite in a Russian base. Snow falls thick, wind howls, and Roach grips ice axes to climb down jagged, icy cliffs. Soap whispers, "Easy, Roach, guards are close." Russian sentries with AKs patrol from metal towers. Dogs bark, and spotlights sweep across snowy caves and drifts. They sneak in, silently take out a guard with a knife, and plant C4 by oil barrels in the fuel station. An intel piece is tucked in a watchtower hallway, next to a rusty radio. The module's in a cold, dark hangar stacked with wooden crates of gear, but suddenly alarms blare. Soldiers yell, bullets fly, and Soap shouts, "Roach." Snowmobile move. They hop on, racing through a blizzard, leaping over icy hills, dodging a narrow bridge as enemies chase with trucks and a rusted tank parked in a corner. Another intel hides among pine trees near a busted cabin. Nikolai swoops in with a chopper and pulls them out of the mess.
Bravo 6, we have you on visual. Get your ass on board. We're running on fumes here. Okay, they got the ACS. We're out of here.
This one's a gut punch, one of the most intense moments in gaming. Private Joseph Allen, now Alexei Borodin, goes undercover with the CIA deep in Vladimir Makarov's terrorist crew. In an elevator, Makarov, cold eyes glaring, says, "No Russian today." The doors open to Zakhaev Airport, alive with bustle. Folks haul colorful suitcases, speakers call out flights, and digital signs flash times and destinations. Then chaos explodes. Makarov's team opens fire on civilians. Screams and cries echo. Glass shatters at the gates, and smoke and gunpowder choke the air. Blood stains the floor. Bags are abandoned, and monitors flicker out. They push through. Airport guards in yellow vests fire pistols, but Makarov's group is ruthless. At the end, Makarov turns, stares at Allen, and growls, You were never one of us. A bullet drops Allen, his body left in the bloody hall to frame the U.S. This sparks the global war.
That was no message. This is a message.
The Americans thought he could deceive us. When they find that body, all of Russia will cry for war.
Roach and Captain Soap McTavish, joined by Lieutenant Simon Ghost Riley, storm the crowded, chaotic favelas of Rio de Janeiro to nab Alejandro Rojas, Makarov's arms dealer. Narrow, dirty alleys buzz with life, clothes sway on lines, old radios blare Brazilian tunes, and mud brick walls peel with faded paint. Militias swarm with guns and grenades, and Soap yells, "Roach, watch your back." They climb rusty metal stairs, leap across flimsy tin rooftops, and fight through cramped houses. An intel piece hides a home with barbed wire windows. They corner Rojas' right-hand man in a room with cracked brick walls, tie him up and grill him. He spills, "Prisoner 627, that's Makarov's key." They track Rojas to a tight alley, but a sniper from a chopper takes him out. Shots ring out, militias scream, and smoke mixes with the stink of burned rubber. Another intel's in a brick building near a scorched motorbike. Nikolai's chopper swoops in, yanking the team from this madness.
No, he's not. No, this is Bravo 6. We've got the package. I repeat, we have got the package.
Coordinates to follow. Bollocks, the skies are clear. Send the chopper now.
Makarov's attack triggers a shocking Russian invasion of the U.S. East Coast. Private James Ramirez, with Sergeant Foley and Corporal Dunn, defends a Virginia suburb. The stolen ACS module let the Russians bypass U.S. defenses. Paratroopers rain down. Suburban homes have shattered windows, and overturned cars clutter the streets. Foley shouts, "Ramirez, get to Nate's restaurant rooftop." Ramirez dashes through smoke and fire, finding an intel piece at a gas station counter, next to a soda can. He grabs a Predator drone, blowing up tanks and troops. They hunt a high-value individual HVI, but find him dead in a house, odd tattooed soldiers nearby. Another intel's on a desk by a window in CRB Financial. The team holds Burger Town, tables flipped, the smell of burnt burgers and gunpowder thick in the air, until an evac convoy rolls in.
Go! Let's go! Hunter 2-1, this is Overlord. Give me a sit rep over. Overlord, Hunter 2-1. Be advised. Precious cargo is secure. Repeat, precious cargo is secure.
Roach and Task Force 141 gotta escape the favelas after the Rojas mess. Brazilian militia, furious, flood the narrow alleys. Old radios blast tunes, clothes flap on lines, and dogs bark as shots ring out. Roach climbs rusted stairs, jumps across tin roofs, and battles through mud brick homes with cracked walls. An intel piece hides at the first alley entry, near a fruit crate. Soap yells, "Roach, get to the extraction point at the market." The chopper can't land, so they bolt back to the rooftops, weaving through trash-strewn streets and past burned-out cars. Another intel's in a shack by a junk-filled square, next to a metal bin. Nikolai's helicopter finally drops in, pulling the team out of this wild chaos.
Jump spotted! Nikolai, we got him! Get us out of here! Way to do, my friend! He's got us to the summer.
Ramirez and the Rangers keep fighting to save civilians in Virginia's suburbs. Russians roll in with tanks and troops, streets lined with wrecked homes and flipped cars. The air's thick with gunpowder and burnt grass. Foley orders, "Ramirez, take out those AA guns." Ramirez sprints through smoky alleys, finding an intel piece in a small office in Garden Villa Apartments by a wooden desk. They push to 4677 Brookmere Road, reaching a panic room with a thick steel door for intel. Ramirez links up with Private Vaughn, crossing a busted bridge, and heads for Washington, D.C. Another intel waits on the second floor of a house, by a window overlooking a wrecked yard. This fight screams the raw intensity of war.
No sign of forced entry. Ramirez, get that briefcase. Intel. Shepard's not gonna like this. Overlord. The HBI is dead.
Roach and Task Force 141 hit an oil rig in the Caspian Sea to rescue hostages held by Makarov's crew. Waves crash against the platform. The air smells of oil and salt. and the cold wind bites hard. They sneak in, silently dropping guards with knives, an intel piece tucked on a middle shelf by a toolbox. Hostages are locked in a metal-walled room, and Roach plants C4 on enemy bodies for a surprise. They climb rusty stairs, another intel hidden under an interior staircase near a broken radio. The rig's cleared, and the team moves out to the gulag. The sound of blasts and enemy shouts pumping the adrenaline.
Full 5 secure. All EOD teams are cleared for landing. Punisher, all flights in the vicinity of grid 255202. Local airspace is secure.
Task Force 141 storms the Gulag prison in Kamchatka to free prisoner 627. Roach and Soap push through dark, damp corridors, stone walls cracked, water dripping from the ceiling, and the stink of mold heavy. Guards with rifles and flashlights patrol, an intel piece stashed in a room near the stairs by a metal table. They blast through with explosives. Heavy fighting opens the way, and they find 627, Captain John Price. Another intel hides in cell 327 by a steel bunk. An airstrike shakes the roof, and the team bolts with Price, escaping this hellhole as Nikolai's chopper swoops in for the save.
Price? This belongs to you, sir. Who's Soap? Whatever you're gonna do, Soap, do it fast!
Bravo 6, I see your flares. Spy rig on the way.
Let's go! Let's go! Look out!
Ramirez and the Rangers clash with Russians in the heart of Washington, D.C. Streets brim with smoke and fire. Tall buildings are cracked, and burned cars pile up. Foley yells, "Ramirez, get to the Department of Commerce." They push through debris-littered roads, an intel piece hidden in a left-side elevator in the lobby by rusted buttons. At a sniper spot called Crow's Nest, Ramirez uses javelin missiles to smash tanks and save civilians. Their chopper crashes in the smoky sky. Another intel waiting in a left-side room near a broken window. Ramirez holds the line until an EMP flash lights up the sky. Roach and Price raid a Russian port in Petropavlovsk to seize a nuclear sub. Snow and wind whip around, rusted ships bob in the water, and the smell of salt and fuel mixes thick. They sneak past patrols, an intel piece tucked among pine trees near a three-man squad. Price, dead set, fires a missile that explodes in the atmosphere over D.C., an EMP crippling the enemy and frying the space station. Another intel sits on a wooden table in Building 33's back room. The team slips away, giving the Rangers a fighting edge. The EMPs turned everything upside down. Ramirez dodges crashing planes in D.C., streets choked with debris, tall buildings scarred, and the stench of smoke and burnt metal heavy. He teams up with Colonel Marshall, weaving through wrecked roads and past flipped cars, battling leftover Russians. Foley shouts, "Ramirez, get to the White House." In the chaos, they light green flares to cancel a U.S. airstrike, the desperation and defiance pulsing through this fight. Ramirez and his squad storm the White House, aka Whiskey Hotel, to take it back from the Russians. Streets glow with fire and smoke. The White House's windows are shattered, its white pillars pocked with bullet holes. They breach the West Wing, fighting through tight halls and fancy rooms with torn carpets and dangling chandeliers. An intel piece hides on a couch in the West Wing, near a busted table. They hit the roof, light green flares to signal it's secure, and save the city from a bombing. Another intel waits by a window in an upstairs room, overlooking the yard. The White House is theirs again.
So, when are we going to Moscow? Not soon enough, man. I know we're gonna burn it down when we get there.
When the time is right, Corporal. When the time is right.
Roach and Ghost hit Makarov's safe house on the Georgia-Russia border. It's a mountain spot, fog thick, trees all around, stone walls cracked, and the smell of burnt wood in the air. They fight through, an intel piece stashed in a crate outside the boathouse, near an old boat. They grab Makarov's intel with a DSM, but General Shepard betrays them. In a gut-wrenching twist, he executes Roach and Ghost, burning their bodies. Another intel hides in an armory, right after a side room. This betrayal lights a fire for revenge.
We got it, sir! Good. That's one less loose end. No!
Area sabotaged. All targets destroyed. Solid copy. No movement detected. 2-6 going into holding pattern.
Soap and Price, now on a run, navigate a wrecked aircraft boneyard in Afghanistan. Broken, rusted planes litter the desert, wind kicks up sand, and Shepard's and Makarov's forces clash. Makarov, in a wild twist, reveals Shepard's spot at Site Hotel Bravo. Soap and Price slip through the chaos, smoke and explosions all around, and Nikolai pulls them out to safety. Soap and Price raid Shepard's base in Afghanistan's cave network. The caves are dark and damp, water drips, and the smell of wet dirt fills the air. They sneak and fight past Shadow Company troops with rifles and grenades, disabling defenses wired to metal boxes. Shepard bolts in a pave-load chopper, vanishing into the thick fog and rocky tunnels. In a heart-pounding chase, Soap and Price pursue Shepard's chopper by boat. The river roars with wild waves, sharp rocks loom, and cold wind stings. Price downs the chopper, and they all crash over a waterfall. Shepard stabs Soap in a brutal moment, snarling, "30,000 of my men died because of Al-Assad. I built this war." The ground's all sand and stone, reeking of smoke and blood. Soap, wounded, throws a knife into Shepard's eye, ending him. Nikolai's chopper swoops in, hauling Soap and Price from the desert to safety. The story closes, but the fight ain't over. The dust settles, But peace remains a distant dream. Price and Soap, bloody but breathing, vanish into the fog of war, heroes without medals, hunted by the very forces they once fought to protect. Shepard's betrayal echoes in every shadow, and Makarov's name still chills the air. The world teeters on the edge, and the battle may be over, but the war is far from done. So gear up, soldier. The fight continues. To be continued in Modern Warfare 3.